Good evening and welcome. My name is Tony Brewer, and along with Joan Hawkins and Kyle Quass, I'm one of the co-producers of this, the Writers Guild Spoken Word Series Virtual Edition. This is going to be our final show for 2021. It's been a pretty amazing year, I gotta say. We are sponsored in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, the Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association. The Writers Guild at Bloomington wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities native to this region and recognize that Indiana University and the city of Bloomington were built on indigenous homelands and resources. We recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land. Before we get to our amazing features this evening, I have a few announcements to make and some upcoming events here at the Writers Guild. Third Sunday Write is a virtual space curated by the Writers Guild where you can find writing prompts and the company of other writers. Members visit a private Facebook page to respond to prompts that are posted monthly. You can write and post anytime during the month and offer a response to others' writing by sharing a readback line. This is a line from their piece in the comments. For more information or to join the group, contact Shauna Ritter at shauna747@gmail.com. Please include Third Sunday in your subject line. Also wanted to mention, and this is a big one, this coming Saturday, December 4th, is the 10th and final Bloomington Krampus Night Parade and Bazaar. That's right. If you haven't been to one, if you haven't been to Bloomington Krampus Night, this is it. This is your last chance to get to one. The bazaar opens at 5 p.m. in the Showers Commons, and the parade starts at sundown. The Krampus Rampage will happen later in downtown Bloomington. What am I talking about? Well, you got to go to the Krampus Night Bloomington Facebook page for all the details. If you know what I'm talking about, you know that you want to be there because, like I said, this is the 10th and final, the last Krampus Night Parade and Bazaar in Bloomington, so be there. Next, I want to mention the first Sunday Prose Reading and Open Mic, which is this Sunday, December 5th at 3 p.m., live and in person with featured readers Abagunde and Wendy Teller. That is also followed by an open mic, and that is at Morgenstern's Books at 849 Auto Mall Road. That's in the old Pier 1 Imports location. And again, that's the first Sunday Prose Reading and Open Mic, Sunday, December 5th at 3 p.m. Next week, there is a book launch reading featuring Hiromi Yoshida celebrating her latest book, Epicanthus, from Finishing Line Press, and me, Tony Brewer, reading from my latest chapbook, which is actually a split chap I did with my good friend Tim Heerdink. It is entitled Tabletop Anxieties and Sweet Decay. Guess which one of those was mine? This is a special book launch reading celebration Wednesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. Also live, also in person at Morgenstern Books. Also at 849 Auto Mall Road. And, you know, where Pier 1 used to be. That is next Wednesday, December 8th. Lastly, I wanted to mention that our annual meeting, officer election, and open mic for the Writers Guild at Bloomington is happening virtually this year, Saturday, December 11th at 2 p.m. via Zoom. All this information is available on our website, which is www.writersguildbloomington.com. That's Writers Guild Bloomington, all words, all one word, .com. You can also find out all this stuff by liking, following, subscribing to us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. We've also got a YouTube channel, so you got to mash that subscribe button and ding the little bell to get all the updates, because this program will be there too. You should also go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. And you do that by visiting the website and giving us your email address. This will all come to you in a wonderfully curated form, courtesy of Joan Hawkins, who is the chair of the Writers Guild, by the way. So that's enough for me. I am thrilled to have our features this evening. Our reader features are folks that I met this summer when I did some readings out west there in Bell, Missouri, in a little town called Bell, Missouri, with the Osage Arts Community that's just tearing it up out there. Jason Ryberg and John Dorsey, who are joining us from Bell, Missouri, and Jonie McIntire, who I met in Bell, Missouri, but is actually from Toledo, and I was fortunate enough to read in Toledo a little while ago as well. And Kyle Quass, who's our kind of our music director as well for this series, brought us someone who happens to be from Kansas City, is currently broadcasting from Kansas City, Seth Andrew Davis. So I'm thrilled to have all these folks with us tonight, and I think we should start off with a bit of music from Seth Andrew Davis. He is a performer, composer, improviser, and electronic musician from the Kansas City area. He is an avid collaborator with choreographers, video artists, animators, playwrights, and his artistic influences run the gamut from pop, free jazz, hip-hop, and electronic music to film, literature, visual art, and contemporary culture, blurring the lines between genre, composer, and performer. In 2020, together with saxophonist Michael Eaton, he co-founded Mother Brain Records, a Midwest-based label focused on releasing works by experimental and improvised music artists. I'm going to put his website in the chat and up on Facebook. And please welcome Seth Andrew Davis.
Hi, thank you so much, Tony, and thank you for the Writers Guild for having me. And I'll play a little bit for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth. Oh, let me get you out of the way. There we go. Thank you. And we'll be hearing some more from Seth a little bit later. Let's get to our, as I build them, our small press features for this evening. First up, we'll have John Dorsey. John Dorsey has lived for several years in Toledo, Ohio. His work has been nominated for Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net, and the Stanley Hanks Memorial Poetry Prize. He was the winner of the 2019 Terry Award given out at the Poetry Rendezvous, and he is the author of several dozen collections of poetry. Two of the latest include Which Way to the River, Selected Poems 2016 to 2020, and that is out by Osage Arts Community Books last year, and Afterlife Karaoke, which is very good, by Crisis Chronicles Press, and that was out earlier this year. Please welcome John Dorsey.
Thank you, Tony. And I was going to joke that I wanted to dedicate this reading to the late Tim Hierdink, which everyone else probably won't get. But all right. I'm going to start with this poem. This is it's called Riot Girl at 9:52 a.m. Sitting on the toilet, I watch through the window as a hummingbird floats above my propane tank, interrupted by Bikini Kill blasting from my phone, as if to motivate me to push forward in protest against every toxic thing I've ever done before mid-afternoon, against every toxic thing every man has ever done in the name of peace, reminding me that I was pure once, like the pale lines along Kathleen Hanna's lips in 1994. This hummingbird is the ghost of a girl we both knew for about the length of a song, her palms covered with sweaty lyrics written in smeared black ink, the ancient tattoos of a suburban adolescence that we no longer have time to contemplate. Toward the end of the summer, Jason and a number of us read for a few days in Nebraska. We were invited there by the wonderful Larry Gaywell. And we read with Katie Maria, who is a professor at the University of Nebraska. And this is just a poem I wrote about her. It's called Poem for Katie Maria. It's so hot that even the trees prefer to dance alone. They prefer the sound of their own voice too. You read a poem about addiction, which is really about death, which is really about trees. I imagine you picking apples along a river rhine in a Nebraska boneyard. Your hands are pale. Crows have reshaped the digits of their need. You take 2 steps back before I can even forget to mispronounce your name. Your dead brother's song is a chorus in an empty field. Okay, I don't really like explaining every poem that I read, but I have to with this, and that this is a poem about a friend of mine, Nikki Delmati, who was a reporter for a lot of years for the Cleveland scene, and she was murdered by her uncle. And I wrote this for her. It's called The Prettiest Girl in Cleveland, Ohio. The prettiest girl in Cleveland, Ohio, never lived long enough to become a crazy cat lady. She used to laugh, talking to me on the phone about hipster boys who would sing 1980s power ballads outside her apartment door at all hours of the day and night. Nobody ever thought a serenade would become a funeral dirge quite so quickly. She made a list of 100 things to do in the city before she died, but never managed to finish it. Taken far too soon, she became the one news story she never got to cover. pierced by her uncle's bullet in a Rust Belt trailer park in the middle of the night. Her last words were like a tree that fell in the woods that nobody would ever get to hear. And I'm going to try to fit in two more poems. And this is another in this sort of theme of poems. This is called The Prettiest Girl in Dixon, Tennessee. And it's taken from a book that Jason and Victor Clevenger and I all did together. The prettiest girl in Dixon, Tennessee can run her fingers along the rough edges of a used tire in the time it takes you to check for a wedding ring. Instead of playing with dolls or imaginary horses, she fixed cars with her father until the streetlights came on, until his lungs gave out in the summer of '93, the wind torn loose from his body, like the seeds of a dandelion in spring. You study her hands. In the right light, everyone seems fragile, like an old tire swinging from the heart of a dying oak tree, taking its last breath, burning memories from the inside out. And I'll finish this round with this poem. This is a true story. It's called For Paul Who Worships Satan and Dungeons and Dragons. I never saw you dismember any animals or play a record backwards to send our young souls to a dimension filled with fire. As far as I know, you didn't even have a vinyl collection. All I remember is you being kind to the younger kids, walking them up from the bus stop to make sure they got home all right. But it was a crime to be quiet in 1984. Maybe if you'd spent less time smoking in the woods behind the trailer park, maybe you should have combed your hair or not worn a faded Black Sabbath t-shirt on the bus without regret as you stared out the window. Maybe you should have gone to church or listened when the news talked about how a fantasy game took lives. As if war and suburbia didn't suck the air out of the room all by themselves. The least you could have done is finish high school and hang yourself from a tree in a different neighborhood.
Awesome. Thank you, John. You are on fire tonight. You sound great. Next, I would like to welcome Jonie McIntire. Jonie McIntire is author of Semi-Domesticated, the winner of the Red Flag Poetry Chapbook Contest in 2021. Also, Beyond the Sidewalk, Night Ballet Press in 2017, and Not All Who Are Lost Wander, Finishing Line Press in 2016. She's also the poetry editor at Of Rust and Glass. She hosts a monthly reading series called Uncloistered Poetry from Toledo, Ohio. You can learn more about her from her website, which I am also going to put in the chat and on Facebook. Please welcome Jonie McIntire.
There. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me as part of this series. It's exciting to end the year this way and with all of you. So one thing that strikes me for small presses, and I've heard this from a couple of different journals, we're not getting enough submissions from women. We, in fact, in a recent one of our recent offerings, we're sort of surprised by that. So I just want to throw out there into the universe women who are interested in writing and have been, hesitant to send your stuff out, and there are a million reasons not to do it. There's always laundry, there's always dishes, there's always everybody else's problems all the time to solve. you should put your stuff together and send it out. And we would like to see it. We would like to get your writing. So I am the poetry editor of Rust and Glass, which focuses on Rust Belt writing and issues, and which all of us are involved in. But I was particularly, thinking about women this evening, and so my poetry choices tonight are going to center around women. And I'm a woman and I like to drink. So I'm going to start my set with why women drink. It comes down to a question of weight, the mass of ourselves bearing repeated ups and downs. We sing the sinner's Hail Mary hopes, eat wafers wanting whole bodies. We pray to ascend, blame gravity and our thick with sin skin for keeping us heavy. Our shoulders palmed by guilt, we are grateful for sweet glasses of liquid savior. We find the sun's blood makes us float. Yes, my Lord, yes, weightless as clouds, light as a rib, as an apple seed, hollow of everything, but the knowledge that liquid reaches down to roots, and we are gracious earth from which everything grows. I think a big part of community is sort of honoring the people who've come before you, and Tony brought that up earlier. And I'm thinking more like grandmas and stuff like that. Okay, so anyway, so I have there's going to be some grandma theming here. Anyway, this one is called Headstone. And sometimes I have a little bit of a particular voice. So this, I don't normally speak in this way, but Headstone. Mama always was afraid of funerals. Said she just knew that body would pop up like a spring in an old mattress and stick us all right in the ass. Dead people too thin without the souls, Mama used to say. Mama used to take Jakey and I to the cemetery to look at all the polished stones. We practiced arithmetic by counting years, figuring who died first from the rows of names. One time, Mama stood back a ways from us and read small white headstones. She told us there must have been the smallpox going around for all those little stone sheep. Ain't nothing right in seeing someone's baby die. She never told us about being orphaned, though, how loneliness like a cave whistles and only you can hear it. She never told me how strange she would look with a lump carved out and healed over that kept spreading like flame up her spine, and her skin became thin as a paper gown. She held my hand that last day, that last hour, and spoke about cremation. Either I is or I ain't. No use taking up space those ants can build on my ceiling. She tried to surround my hand with her palm, show me she was as strong as the woman who taught me to swim. But all I could feel was the press of her bones toward each other, into my bones, and a release. I let her hand lie there on top of mine and sat in the hushing noises, waiting for the nurse to tell me what to do. I'd like you to know that that is all a fiction. My mother is fine. She's just fine. But here's another one, and this was in Gasconade Review, and so thank you to the editors there for publishing this one. It's called Walker Red. Grandmas aren't for comfort, not the ones in the wood, not the forest edge bright cloak gifts who fight quietly through the beast's belly, while their women children's children skip into whispering along paths beaten smooth, past whiskey wolves' two long teeth and big eyes waiting to pounce. So sometimes when I get stuff in the mail, I like to mess with it, especially when it's like advertisements. But this is a good one. Okay, so this is from Academy of American Poets. We got a little letter from Joy Harjo. And my husband is also a poet, so we got two of them. So I made two minor poems of both of them. The first one Dear friend, it is America. This poem a port for your consideration. And then the second one, same letter that she penned. But this one is, dear friend, I have been millions of people considering voice for you. I thought that was very appropriate for the role that she has and the work that she has done. A friend of mine who was in a writing workshop with me sent a poem, and I'm going to read her poem now. Her name is Pam Remington, and I just thought this was really wonderful. I keep it in my office as a reminder. It's called Sometimes It's Not a Metaphor. Look up from the other poet's work. The coffee cooled while you were gone. Pay attention. It's snowing. Insistent flakes like runes patter the ground, accumulating meaning. No, it's just snow. Believe that words will fall onto your own page when summoned. Or maybe not. It doesn't matter. This is enough. I try to remind myself of that sometimes, right? And then I think I have two more, if that's okay, if no one's going to kick me off here, but they're not too long. Okay, this one is called Greeley, Nebraska. And here we go. It's not yet a full day and my directions are lost. I imagine the cold of 3 a.m. Nebraska and Beth and her overstuffed orange chair, a beige sweater knotty and warm and buttonless, Dink circling at her feet. But she was in bed, and house dress I've probably never seen. The sweat of morphine sleep darkening her hair, her daughters pacing, her husband set like an uneasy hound in an overstuffed chair. For her funeral, the crowds will circle the Legion Hall, shuffling slowly and sobbing down the open streets that just last year we played in, when everyone gathered for her birthday, when the entire town played tag. I kept ending up on Beth's porch, bathed in the smell of ham loaf and sheet cake, carrying 2 large pineapple salads to picnic tables and giggling at her whisper, quick drink, come with me. And I went, and the town got away from me. And then I just have this last one for the first set. It's called Again We Rise. Sometimes alive is a thing that happens after the blue. The pale face, baby, light skin, the deep trench of sadness, the drowned boy in public pool dripping cheese fries and Slurpee and no swimming lessons. Sometimes alive is what follows abortion, what follows funeral. After loss has lapped at you like a river until you walked out of its pull. A hunger, a compulsion, like the tide, the sun, insistent, incessant. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Johnny. I mentioned in the chat, I put the link to Of Rust and Glass in there. Of Rust and Glass is a wonderful publication that's really beautiful, and it's both online and print, which is a cool thing too. Not all publications do that. Next, I want to welcome for our first round of features, Jason Ryberg, another poet that I met this summer in Dan Wright's kitchen there in St. Louis, in poetry in the park, poetry in the pub, and then it ended up being poetry in the parlor. Jason Ryberg is the author of 13 books of poetry, 6 screenplays, a few short stories, a box full of folders, notebooks, and scraps of paper that could one day be loosely construed as a novel, and a couple of angry letters to various magazine and newspaper editors. He is currently an artist in residence at both the Prospero Institute of Disquieted Poetics and the Osage Art Community, and is an editor and designer at Spartan Books. His latest collection of poems is The Ghosts of Our Words Will Be Heroes in Hell, co-authored with Damian Rucci, John Dorsey and Victor Clevenger from Osage Arts Community Books in 2020. He lives part-time in Salina, Kansas with a rooster named Little Red and a billygoat named Giuseppe, and part-time somewhere in the Ozarks near the Gasconade River, where there are also many strange and wonderful woodland creatures. Please welcome Jason Ryberg.
You have the most perfect NPR voice I've ever heard. And I mean that with extreme praise. Just saying, everywhere I could be when I was driving a truck years and years ago, Wisconsin, Texas, Seattle, you were there. I'm going to start out with a poem called Still Life of Pocket Knife, Carpenter's Pencil, and Black Velvet Elvis. There was a wadded up brown paper bag with a few phone numbers and some directions hastily scrawled upon it. A brass candle holder shaped like a chess piece, a king or a queen maybe, but the wax of many multicolored candles had melted down over it over the years, rendering it mostly gender neutral by now, and a set of keys that looked as if they unlocked massive doors and gates and Gothic trunks and chests best left unopened, all arranged on an ancient card table, the kind you always got stuck at every goddamn Thanksgiving as far back as you can remember. A man snoring steadily in a kicked back lazy boy chair in front of a Red Wings Black Hawks game, a coffee mug of Diet Coke and bourbon balanced precariously on his slowly rising, slowly falling, slowly rising, slowly falling belly, bloated with what appears to be most of an emo's meat lover's pizza, a pocket knife covered in red sauce and cheese, and the stub of a carpenter's pencil permanently fixed behind his left ear. A black velvet Elvis wearing gold wraparound shades watches over it all and keeps him safe. Oh, this is wonderfully self-pitying. So please, groan away at the appropriate moment. It's called Preoccupied. Oh, that was one right there, I think. Oh, two. She's the only woman I've ever known who ever said she loved me. And she said it all the time. Though never quite so earnestly as when she was lamenting the latest disappointing boy du jour, only just recently pulled from the ever-turning hot dog rotisserie of indistinguishable soft boy art school types. The only one who really hooked the old battleship chain and 2-ton anchor to the base of my spine, upon which she would unwittingly, no doubt, tap out a seemingly meaningless Morse code of sexual polyrhythms from time to time when she wasn't otherwise preoccupied with something more engaging. Just drips with self-pity. This is called The Imp of the Perverse. You would think that at this stage of the game, one would have their business together enough, at least in regards to the basics of maintenance and general upkeep, risk assessment and impulse control, but no. The ability to momentarily let one's judgment drift askew and make bad decisions is bone deep and muscle memorized, most likely mixed into the very ink in which the sacred script of the DNA is written. And no matter how much cognitive therapy you've had, or how many years it's been since your last incident, you know your old road dog running buddy from way back will always be there waiting for you to call. This is called A Grand Old Time. Last night, the moon made me get up from my kitchen table and my cracked bone china mug of herbal tea, put on my coat and my hat, walk out the back door and wander off into the hills to run with my wild cousins, the coyotes, through fields and backyards and gardens, howling, yipping, and generally laughing it up, having a grand old time of it all, with no thoughts of tomorrow, when suddenly the sun began creeping up over the distant tree line and told us all to get on home. This is called Beef. It's What's for Dinner. It's dedicated to all the various spokesmen over the years, and well, now because they're all dead. The beef industry has murdered every one of these men they've had for spokesmen for their shows. But you guys remember that commercial? Beef, it's what's for dinner. The wind is whipping up little cyclones of dust and leaves in the ditch by the side of Old 40 Highway. And there's a starshine gleam in the chrome ball hitch of the pickup truck in front of me. And there's roadside fences to the future, telephone poles to the past, and the sun, like a cyclops murder red eye, is climbing up from behind the horizon and right into my driver's side rear view mirror. And Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures is playing now on the radio, and there above it all, a lone falcon or hawk sits calmly, surveying its little fiefdom from the top of a billboard sign that reads, "Beef, it's what's for dinner." You got that right, pal. Bonus points for anybody in the comment section who can name some of the who was playing the Rockford Files.
Oh, James Garner.
James Garner was one of them. They killed him. Robert Mitchum. Pretty sure he was one of them. Trying to think who they are, but I think let me. Yeah, this is called Open Letter to Lucas Jackson, who, by the way, was the official character in Cool Hand Luke. Allegedly one of Hollywood's sweatiest movies ever. I can't really confirm or deny that, but it's called Open Letter to Lucas Jackson. You sad sack of new meat, you. You beheader of parking meters, you. You malicious destroyer of municipal property. You unrecognizable pup. You failure as a communicator, you. Backsasser, box dweller, rabbit blood, hog gut. You tireless devourer of eggs, you. You kicker of bucks, you chain buster, gun fetcher, natural born world shaker. You backroad swamp runner, you good old boy. You cool, big, beautiful handful of nothing, you. Laugh it up, kid. May your mind never be right. And one last one here. We're still within the parameters. Yeah, it's called All the Points of the Compass. It's going to require a little bit of, excuse me, Evan Williams, sweet Evan. You could be one of those John D. Rockefeller types with interest, credit, and dividends to burn, and legions of laborers and company men yoked to each gilded coach like Clydesdales or Lipton's Honor Stallions. You could be a rogue romantic Jedi or irresistibly charming bandit prince of poets, somehow defying all known universal laws regarding the natural and equitable distribution of the world's singularly sweetest fruit. You could be Otis the town drunk, a low-rent Lee Poe shuffling, belching, and farting away your days in poetic Nirvanish glee. Down the plum blossom lined streets of the quaint little Mayberry, USA, of your wine-soaked mind. And for all the points of the compass, there is only one direction, and time is its only measure. And it's only a matter of time before you're carried calmly out to or paddling madly backwards from the roaring falls of the great unknown. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jason Ryberg. We'll have another round from our poets here in a little bit. Let's now have a little musical interlude with our musical guest this evening, Seth Andrew Davis. Seth?
Thank you all, and great work by everyone. It was fantastic. So I'll do a little bit more playing. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you. Seth Andrew Davis, Hold on. We'll get to you in a minute. Okay, we're ready for our next round from our posts this evening, Jonie McIntire, John Dorsey, and Jason Ryberg. I believe first up in this second round is Jonie McIntire. And Jason Ryberg. I believe first up in this second.
Shit. What did I do?
Hello?
I got it.
You're good. I think Johnny is up first.
I think we may have lost Johnny.
No, I'm right
Huh?
here. I see me in the little box.
Is she first?
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you for finding me. Okay, hi again. Okay. So the second set sort of deals with place, people in place, and so a fairly new one is the first I'll read. It's after 20 years, a bat circled down from the attic, sliding a little too easily through the ill-cut door into a bedroom both kids insisted was haunted, now newly painted to become a writer's office, after the kids moved out and their merciless mother cleared everything, stacking beds in one guest room and whitewashing the other to start what exactly? Her cloistered life of poetry? The beginning of her road to a Pulitzer? Or more likely this bad finding open air, finding a quiet path down a 3-story, 3-bedroom house with nothing but a woman puttering in the kitchen to startle. And yes, it did startle me. And then I love to play word games. Probably a lot of people who are into writing like to play word games, but this is Scrabble. Late October, the sky a particularly bland gray. She begins a new game with her grandma, low scorer online, but high in life, with iota, the best of what her tiles can offer. And for a moment, the abortion, the leaking roof, the office work, stressful and piling, all peel away as she waits for her next sensible move. So I used to ride the bus. That's very exciting. But anyway, this is a bus poem. The 26 at 7:20. There are maybe 4 minutes from where he gets on the bus to where he knows I'm going to get off. But he sits next to me anyway, aged feet dragging to the middle of the creaking bus. I am always busy, eyes deep in a book or fingers tapping randomly on a phone. The first time, an older woman in a row closer to the front shifted, assuming age sits with itself, only to be passed over. I said hello that first time, still untrained at the gentle art of looking so terribly busy that talking is impossible. So ever since, for 4 minutes, he plays out in his mind how to say it when we reach my stop. Oh, you get off here? Or perhaps, oh, that's right, let me move for you. And then he'll rise, step just a half step over so that inevitably some part of me brushes some part of him, and the 4 quiet minutes were well spent. So there's etiquette, that women learn on public spaces, and how to look terribly busy or pointy, or I don't know, whatever, right? So anyway, one of the things that all women have dealt with is the smile issue. One thing that's actually nice about these masks is you don't have to deal with the people worrying if you're smiling at them or not, which is delightful. But back in the days when there were no masks and whether a female had a smile on her face or not was somehow public interest. I wrote this. Smile. When you ask me to give you a smile, so pretty a face I have, it should bring you the sunshine. Just a little grin and a wink. You are asking for my teeth, for my gums, for the sinew and the bone, for the memories you don't want to carry, and neither do I. You aren't even asking, but telling me what to do next with the muscles of my face, with the countenance of my day, which suddenly is unimportant because it not being what you wanted made my face not what you wanted. And what you wanted is everything I have to be offered up to your mood, to your need for sunshine, which I have never been. So I will not give you a smile because I don't want to give you my teeth. You know, every once in a while you have a reaction poem. And then this is a little bit longer poem, but I'm gonna end this set on this one. That is, I used to work in an office and it sort of takes up all of your time and all of your mental energy. And when I stopped working in a corporate office and, you know, kind of devoted a little more time to writing, I was actually able to write longer things. So anyway, this was my big long poem that I wrote. It's called The Body of My House. To remove 100 years of roofing shingles down to the cedar, men not afraid to fall construct mini balance beams and lean their full weight flat where water pools and rests above us. From inside, it sounds like war above me, the sky falling in waves into a red dumpster, like an open wound between us and the neighbors who are never home. One side swung open wide. The house shakes as nails pull free from hammers, rust flung with black hardened from rotting boards, and tar cracked as skin gone ashy. I have felt this war before. The pull, pause, readjust, pull. The body moving as beyond a curtain and the chatter of an anesthesiologist 2 days from vacation. 2 women wrestled with my daughter, already blue from wrapping the neck like a midwinter scarf. The roofers break for lunch, but I avoid the kitchen. The back window only partially obscured by the microwave. I can feel they've been working in that corner and I've been paralyzed to the front of the house, too anxious to read or write. I watch TV movie romances with awkward sex scenes heating up just as the dogs wake to flap open the curtains at couch's edge, while a man wearing a dark gray hoodie and drinking Red Bull looks over to see a ridiculous blonde up against a sink screaming harder. It wasn't just the cord around the neck, though. We rushed to the hospital because she was transverse, and in hoping to move her to the right, head down direction, found she had no amniotic fluid. But you felt her moving, yes? The cord, turns out, was not only wrapped around her neck, but also tied by some incredible gymnastic event into a true knot, rare by obstetric standards. But I never knew. I'm a twitchy woman, trapped on my couch by sound as roofers return, cracking each other up to bad imitations as they shout along to Teen Spirit. If I leave the room for more than 10 minutes, the dogs bark incessantly. If I stay, they sleep. So I stay, hunker down for Bridget Jones and begin to question my love of Colin Firth. We expect at least 2 more days like this, and I've stopped showering. They ended up cutting 3 times to get her out. War zone, the doctor said. If we want more children, schedule them. At the door, the foreman says, sorry, a hammer's been dropped. Could I go to the attic and retrieve it, please? And I go up through my daughter's bedroom, now a disaster as she's hit teen years. I climb the stairs to the open rib cage of my attic, 2 workmen surrounded by sky startle to see me as I hand up the hammer. The entire body of my house for a moment, still as snowflakes settling mid-afternoon. Thank you.
That's great, Johnny. Thanks so much. Really like that one a lot. Let us now have another round from our good friend there in Bell, Missouri, Mr. Jason Ryberg. Jason?
That working? All right. This is called Thanksgiving 2020, but maybe it's applicable to 21. The wind tonight is a storm gray ocean of savage undertows and alternating currents. And our bellies are full of birds and pigs, and our livers are swollen with the water of life and the blood of the Lord. And to the west of us, an eastbound train flows like a river stirred up by days of rain. And to the east, the stiff skeletons of elm and cedar trees lift and sway their limbs and branches with the dreamy surge and swell of the megachurch faithful. And all the draperies and tapestries of cloud have been drawn back now to show us the shadowy rafters and balustrades of night, all hung and lit with the crystal glitter and glow of cosmic chandelier, beneath which we solemnly puff on cheap cigars and pull from flasks of apricot brandy, tipping one for fallen friends and family, toasting to the hope for a better year to come. This is I'm not a big believer in ghosts, but if I think a place is haunted, I want them to like me anyway. It's called Nothing to Fear Here. There's a ghost here residing inside our ancient grandfather clock. It's ectoplasmic breath, or whatever you want to call it, fogging up the glass in which a smiley face has been traced at the same time every Friday night, as if to tell us there's nothing to fear here. Just the occasional accompaniment of riotous laughter right along with the rest of us. And if something on the TV is particularly hilarious, or someone has told a joke that gets us all going, you get the sense that whoever it is just wants to belong and be part of the fun. Or other times, it's the faint echo of empathetic weeping when sad news has been delivered, and still, every now and then, what sounds like a drunken tumble taken down the old servant's stairs in the back, and then a very clear and cantankerous "son of a bitch." Nobody ever gets the last line. I would hope it's fairly obvious that, anyway. This is called Still Life of Frog and Stone. Here's a single petal from someone's prize-winning rose bushes. Rose bushes. Floating down the gutter on a river of rainwater from a thunderstorm whose giant eye seems to be calmly and curiously focused upon us for the moment. And here's a frog knocking on a stone at the bottom of someone's overgrown garden pond, its ear pressed against it as if waiting for what exactly? A giant chorus of cicadas sounding almost like concrete saws tries to kickstart their machines prematurely, but the storm shuts them down again, hard. It's called Civilized. When it all comes down to it, Are poets not just a bunch of raggedy, old soul, gold rush tin panners, sifting for whatever little bits and nuggets of the big mother lode of the capital T truth and beauty that the old heads drone on and on so much about from their rocking chairs and front porch stoops, brown bags out and tipping each other between bouts of laughter and the odd moment of tense dialectic? And would we not all be better off if we traded in our picks and shovels for a pawn shop metal detector and a pair of Crocs and spent the rest of our days probing for our modest little treasures down at the park, or maybe even a beach somewhere a little more civilized? Last one. Empty chairs and pencil marks. A chair sitting all alone in the middle of an empty room upon which you have suddenly come in an otherwise empty house in the middle of the day, and nothing and no one around for miles and miles, or so it would seem, except maybe for the wind ruffling the leaves of a lone tree in the distance, or a wasp tapping inquisitively at the window, is just as good a reason as any to momentarily reevaluate your immediate surroundings and perceptions of things, as well as your overall understanding of your place in the world, or maybe even look over your shoulders reflexively for what? In much the same way that pencil marks on a door frame recording in sixteenths and eighths and half inches the ghost of the growth of a child or many children make a long abandoned house seem somehow even more lonely and sad. Thank you.
That's great, Jason. Thanks so much. And there, it looks like there to your left. Let's have another round from Mr. John Dorsey.
Thank you, Tony. I would be remiss if I did not mention this book published by my good friend John Burroughs, Afterlife Karaoke. And I'm going to read a poem from here. And then I want to read some stuff by my late friend Kel Robertson. This is a piece called Renting a VCR in 1989. We didn't have our own. The only copy of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was always out. And I was still too young to alter the course of history. Not yet lovesick for pale girls chanting Nirvana anthems, drinking wine coolers in the suburban garages of my youth. Sitting there Indian style, with unsalted popcorn on a paper towel, on a green shag carpet that never looked clean, no matter how many times you tried to scrub the memories out. I spent my Saturday nights watching Cronenberg and Hal Hartley's love letters to Long Island outsiders, feeling just as weird and out of place as I was supposed to, waiting on the future. I'm gonna read some stuff here by Kel Robertson. If you don't know his work, you should. This collection is like 336 pages. It was recently released by Lummox Press in San Pedro, California. You can find it on Amazon. But in addition to his work, it includes tributes and essays. And I am a contributor to the book in that form. But I want to read a tiny poem of his, and then a long poem of his, and then I'm going to end with one poem of mine. But this has always been my favorite poem, and it comes from his book, A Horse Called Desperation. And it's just called For My Stepfather. My stepfather drank Louisiana Red Hot straight from the bottle, and shot pop bottles off the top of my head for friends on weekends. I still have a scar on my head from flying glass. When my mother died, he hung himself. The son of a bitch, I loved him. And this poem is long. I'm going to try to get through this in my own poem. And it's just the title poem from his selected that he had done back in the 90s. And that Kel, just as a small amount of background, he grew up in Kansas, lived for many years in New Mexico, and passed away about 10 years ago. But he was one of my best friends. This is a horse called Desperation. I ride a horse called Desperation, a bony nag half blind, fast only because he has to be. He runs in startled leaps and cannot see where he is going. I give my horse the name Desperation because a man must put a name on things. The sunlight touches leaves, rekindles life. Light kills some creatures. Darkness is their hunting time. Mushrooms feed on decay. The worm is equal to the tree, the maggot to the man, and rocks are better than history books. Death is a shrouded figure, comes from our imaginings, and the real death is no more than a twig snapped in the wind, the slap of a beaver tail on a mountain lake, the lion's roar, the squeal of a rabbit waiting for my hand to break his neck with a quick blow. A pig's squall before death or castration, the terrible cry of a hawk striking. The Indians were closer to the earth, were closer because it was where they were. And when the white man's whiskey came, they drank it willingly. They'd already scratched marks on rocks or bent a grass blade down to indicate direction. The noble savage wanted those cheap beads, a mirror to see himself in. Powder and paint had already seduced him. He had placed a shell on his lower lip, a ring in his nose to make him suffer pain and be beautiful. Ladies wrapping themselves in corsets had nothing on him for vanity. Tattooing himself was suffering. He walked the jungles searching for something to prove his courage by. A lion, maybe, or a man who disagreed. We've made the primitive more sophisticated. Rifles replace clubs. Atomic bombs are reflected. In the polished knife blade, the slap of a beaver tail is a blip on a radar screen. This horse, again in cunning called Desperation, sags against the wall out of breath, but ready for a burst of speed over the edge of the abyss. Riddles, cones, parables, the click and sputter of the pinball machine. A million billion points flash from the grinning lady, whose legs painted on glass defy us with the crackling chips of their believability. This horse, pot-bellied because he is undernourished and overfed, couldn't leap over the trimmed hedges for kings and queens, but will break them down for the hell of it on a windy night when the wind howls in a full moon, drying and magic. His eyes are crazy. He falls down and dies and rots and rises again to fall. And this time, when he rises, it's like the sudden interest of a man on the verge of suicide, who is confronted by the need to plunge himself once more into the soft cavity of a woman's flesh and spend himself on that, as if it were the only God left he could believe in. This horse, my horse, called Desperation, is the only horse that will take me where I have to go. The coffee's cold, the fire is gone out. The girl I love sleeps in the arms of my accusers. Christ rolled the stone away and went to glory. Nobody will serve me anything. In my arrogant despair, I turn to sing my song to a horse who is too weary to listen, but never too weary to carry me, jerking and screaming through this stark cold night in the flames.
Nice.
And that is Kel Robertson. And I will finish with one poem of my own. And I thank you for your time, really, today. It's been, let's see here. All right. When the pandemic really got rolling, there was an article online that said that the government had issued 1.1 million stimulus checks to people that were already dead, which totaled like $1.4 billion. And I wrote this poem, and it's called Stimulus Checks for the Dead. More than 1 million ghosts will eat better than you tonight, sleeping along the borders of history, of moon landings, of great speeches of empathy, not tear gas, not children in cages, not batons across the neck of a river. The dead don't need our help. The dead never wear face masks. The dead keep everything off the books. The dead bump into each other in the clouds. The dead give Eskimo kisses to the dead. The dead are a pile of worry. The dead are a mountain of regrets. The dead are a great poem. The dead are a bad poem. The dead are a beautiful girl who will never grow old. The dead are a warm foxhole. The dead are a great love story. The dead are your mother's broken heart. The dead are your father's missed opportunities. The dead are a friend you couldn't save from the dead. The dead went to your high school. The dead puked in your car. The dead lost their virginity to the dead. The dead died of cancer. The dead died of heart attacks. The dead died of AIDS. The dead died because of their skin color. The dead died for the right to love anyone they want. The dead died of hunger. The dead died of loneliness. The dead were murdered by the dead. The dead hung Gershwin in concentration camps. The dead loved you with all their hearts. The dead sometimes said things they didn't mean.
I love that one. Thank you, John. So we're now going to have a sort of a lightning round from our three poets in another different order. And they're going to do one poem apiece, pretty much any length. And I'm not going to introduce them one at a time. I'm just going to give you that order, and then they're going to go in that order. And then I'll come back and introduce Seth for a final piece of music. So the order for this lightning round will be Jason Ryberg, and then John Dorsey, and then Jonie McIntire will close us out. So, Jason, you're up.
Man, that's not fair, but okay. All right. This is an ode to basically every dive bar in America that we all love. It's called 1,000-Yard Stare. It was a hole in the wall kind of place that stank of pine saw, piss, and stale beer, and still had dispensers in the men's room for glow-in-the-dark condoms and French ticklers and other surprise novelty items. And the big monkey behind the bar was named Earl or Jake or Curly, and he kept a sawed-off table leg within reach at all times and gave you that 1,000-yard stare if you dared ask for anything with more than one ingredient. And the jukebox hadn't been changed out in decades, and the lunch special was always the same: pickled eggs, pork rinds, and hot sauce. Though I got the feeling that nobody ever ate it unless they lost a bet.
Okay, this is a poem for my brother. And anyone who has seen the movie Easy Rider will probably get the references. And when my brother was a kid, he was obsessed with that movie. It's called Captain America and Billy. At 14, my brother was obsessed with Easy Rider and the soft purr of a Rickenbacker bass. Hog Heaven was the scent of gasoline and perfume and the roar of engines on a small screen. We drank Mad Dog 2020 out of paper bags under the old movie theater sign with its letters dangling like a long forgotten ransom note. He was Captain America. I was Billy, and George Hansen rolled into one. And Steppenwolf was still the bird song of modern myth. And before I maxed out my credit cards, we'd eat huge dinners in a strip mall, TGI Fridays, and fill ourselves with red wine in the middle of the afternoon, imagining we were in the French Quarter, or at least a few counties over, not wanting to think about the coming Pennsylvania winter, or that we might never end up going anywhere at all.
Okay, so I'm, waiting to see what happens with the Supreme Court, as many people are. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking there's a certain line in a children's book. The children's book is Where the Wild Things Are. And the line is, we'll eat you up, we love you so. And it makes me think of how the arguments about women's health. So anyway, I wrote this, and it's sort of in the style of Where the Wild Things Are. Where the wild things are. The women wear their business suits or skirts or gym shorts and keep getting themselves into trouble, or more trouble. They get called whore and prude, and the women say, I don't need you. And they get put into smaller rooms and told to starve. And from their quiet, a jungle grows and grows and grows until their world is a grotesque of faces, and their foundation is the backs of women who made them. And seas like blood flow shame from private places, and they float through village and century and weave history into months and circle under tides, to where they can see what they're really being told. And when they hear their grandmother's anger and their mother's exhaustion and the correcting and chiding, and see the lipstick trails and pantyhose shame, the falseness of nails, they scream no more and try to play the parlor tricks of making money without seeming scary. And the falseness lines up and calls the women princess and dresses them like porcelain fuck dolls. And the women think something has shifted and say, let the revolution start. Now, where have we gotten, they say, and they shoo history away like a fly. And the women feel hollow like empty boxes, and they are told that's what they are. Then all around them, they see they're still at parlor tricks, and they want solid ground under feet. So they say princess isn't enough and was never true. But the godly and the fearful use guilt and say, you may as well be the calf who wants to be eaten. And the women can't say no. The wild truth roars its terrible truths. And the women see their mothers and grandmothers' backs bent, and they try to straighten and stand and move forward, even over years and in and out of different roles and through today and back into the night of this very room. It's yellow wallpaper waiting for us, and we're still caught. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much, Johnny. And thanks also to Jason. And thanks also to Mr. John Dorsey there in Bell, Missouri. It was so great to meet all of you this summer and have an opportunity to share stages with you. And I'm sure we will again. In fact, if the weather holds, we will again very soon. So let's bring back our musical guest to close us out for the evening, Seth Andrew Davis.
I just want to say thank you all for having me. Thank you to Kyle and Tony, and thank you to all the poets. Great work tonight. It was fantastic. So we'll do a quick, short one, and we'll say goodnight. So. Good night, everybody.
Oh, sorry, Seth Andrew Davis. Thanks again. Thanks so much for being here, joining us from Kansas City. Also, thank you to our readers tonight, John Dorsey and Jason Ryberg, joining us from Bell, Missouri. They're in the Osage Arts Community, and Jonie McIntire over there in Toledo. I want to thank you as well, our audience, both tonight and in the future, where you will hear this. Where you will hear this program either on Facebook Live or over on our YouTube channel here coming soon. Be sure to check out our website for upcoming events and also to sign up for our newsletter. I also want to thank my co-producers, Joan Hawkins and Kyle Quass, our virtual bouncer. My name is Tony Brewer. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and good night.